Welcome to this presentation about Jolabokaflod and how you can integrate it into the way that you celebrate Christmas. So here's a guide that I'm going to talk you through, which will give you some ideas about how to embrace Jolabokaflod and make it a literary tradition that you follow in your own Christmas break. Or maybe you don't celebrate Christmas as a religious festival, but many religions, people who don't have a religion at all, celebrate a kind of during the winter by giving people presents, friends and family. So this is something that you might want to integrate anyway into the way that you um, celebrate the end of the year with your loved ones. So we're going to discover how this Icelandic tradition of Jólabókaflódið, which literally means the Christmas book flood in English, can inspire families all over the world because the word Jolabokaflod doesn't really mean anything except in Icelandic. So everybody can learn this new word to mean the same thing, to foster a love of reading and to strengthen bonds over the holiday period. So here we go. Let's start. So there's a Danish tradition or concept called hygge, which has become popular in the last few years. And the idea is that it's a feeling of coziness, of togetherness, of perhaps being inside next to a roaring fire, um, in very cold weather with the snow outside, feeling as though you've had a good meal, you're with friends, maybe you're with your family, and you've got a drink on the go, and maybe you're doing something like reading or watching TV or something like that, where you feel as though you belong. You're in the heart of your family, and everything is well within your own world, even though all sorts of things might be going on outside that you can't control. And it's that feeling, that warmth of Jólabókaflód, which is part of the reason why it's such a great tradition to follow. So imagine it's Christmas Eve in a small town in Iceland. The air outside is crisp and cold, but inside a cozy home, a family gathers by the warm fireplace. The room is softly lit, perhaps with twinkling lights on a modest Christmas tree. Instead of rushing to unwrap presents or check their phones, each family member hands out carefully chosen books. This is after they've had their Christmas meal on Christmas Eve, and they're in a feeling of wanting to exchange gifts. Grandparents, parents, children, they all smile with excitement, and then, as if performing a well-rehearsed ritual, they settle into plush chairs, blankets tucked around their knees, and begin reading quietly together. This tradition is known as Jólabókaflód, or the Christmas book flood, and it's been celebrated in Iceland since the time they got their independence from Denmark after the Second World War. On this particular night, Christmas Eve, the family bonds deepen through the shared experience of reading. They can escape into stories, broaden their minds, and create a memory that will endure far beyond the holiday season. This evening, through this presentation, I hope to inspire each of you, whether or not you have a large family, a circle of friends, or whether you're just celebrating the holidays on your own, to bring the essence of Jólabókaflód into your Christmas celebrations. And by doing so, you can foster a true love for reading, strengthen relationships, and create meaningful holiday traditions that will be treasured for generations to come. So, the origins and history of Jólabókaflód, as I say, um, during the war, Second World War, obviously in late 30s to the mid 1940s, um, there were lots of restrictions on what citizens of Iceland could get hold of, and there were rations and import restrictions on many things because obviously during a war it's very difficult to have normal supply chains. So Let's start by looking at where the tradition comes from. Jólabokaflod isn't just a quaint custom, it's deeply woven into the modern cultural fabric of Iceland. It began during World War II, a time when imports were heavily restricted, as I say. While many goods were scarce, paper was more readily available than other luxury items, making books a perfect gift choice. And over time, giving books on Christmas Eve evolved into a beloved national tradition. Today, Iceland publishes more books per capita than almost any other country in the world. And the holiday season sees a flood of new titles being released. The reason why um, books are published pretty much at the same time every year is that Iceland doesn't have many trees. So they don't have a sustainable supply of wood that can be made into paper locally. So they have to import all the paper that they use to produce the books. And obviously, if you order in bulk, it's cheaper. So they tend to print and publish the books in late autumn, and then a catalogue is produced that that gets sent on paper to everybody in the country, every household in the country, so that they can decide which books they want to choose to read, and that's called the book bulletin. In Icelandic, this catalogue is known as Bókatidindi, which is a loose translation of that is book bulletin. Um, and then people just decide which of the new books they're going to want as gifts and which ones they want to actually share with their friends and family. So, as well as the this whole tradition, it has meant that industry reports and research have shown that Iceland's literacy rate and reading culture remains exceptionally high, in part due to this annual focus on the written word. So, why do books make such great gifts? Why give books at Christmas when we have so many other gift options? The simple answer is that books are personal, thoughtful, and enduring. Unlike many trendy gadgets or quickly dated toys, a book can transport the recipient into different worlds, introduce new ideas, or rekindle old memories. For example, you can match interests and hobbies. If your daughter loves fantasy, find a novel that immerses her in magical realms. If your best friend is passionate about sustainability, choose a book about ecological living. You can also share your own personal favorites as gifts. So consider gifting a book that you've personally enjoyed. By doing so, you're offering a piece of yourself, your own taste, your thoughts, your values, so that that strengthens the bonds between you, the giver, and the person that you're giving the gift to. And the long-term value of books is in the fact that they can be reread, annotated by putting notes in the margins, and passed along to other people so they can be shared amongst many different people, often within families, or maybe, given away to charity shops, that kind of thing. They become cherished items that often outlast many other holiday gifts. So by carefully selecting titles that resonate with your recipient's interest and taste, in other words, the person that you're giving the book to, books become not just objects under a tree, but also meaningful connections between people, ideas, and experiences. So, how do you choose the perfect book? Selecting the right book can feel daunting, but it doesn't have to be. Icelanders have this handy tool, this catalogue I was mentioning, the Bókatidindi, a catalogue listing all the current new book releases for that year. While you may not have the Bókatidindi, you can find similar guidance elsewhere. So you can explore different genres. Don't limit yourself to the person you're buying the book for. Don't limit yourself to their usual reads. Introduce them to a new genre that they might fall in love with. Perhaps historical fiction, narrative non-fiction, or poetry. Use trusted reviews. Rely on literary critics, professional reviewers, and even crowdsourced opinions from readers on platforms like Goodreads or by watching YouTubers or book talk content creators who get passionate about a book that you think might be appropriate for your loved one. Also, consider the author's style. Sample a few pages in a bookshop before you buy. Or if you go onto a digital platform, you can often see, read a few sample pages digitally before you make a commitment. Does the voice and tone of the recipient's fit the recipient's preference? Is it something that your friend or family member is going to enjoy? A short test read ensures that you can choose a style that resonates with that person. By leveraging resources from catalogs and review sites to trusted bloggers and vloggers, you can ensure that the books you give as presents are not just random picks, but carefully curated gifts that your loved ones will truly appreciate. So, what are the benefits of reading for pleasure? In a world often dominated by screens and constant digital notifications, reading offers a quieter, more enriching alternative. Imagine finishing your day with a chapter of a novel rather than an hour of mindless scrolling or binge watching a show on TV. Reading exercises the imagination, broadens the vocabulary, and it reduces stress. So consider the differences between watching a TV show and reading a story in a book. In visual media, delivered in a completed form, there's no room to make your own personal interpretations. You can't use your imagination because it's there in front of you on a television screen. Whereas reading engages the mind so that you visualize settings, voices, and characters. It's an active experience between you and the text that fosters creativity and empathy. Research from the University of Sussex suggests that reading can reduce stress levels by up to 68%. It's a simple and low-cost way to improve mental health and well-being. Reading is not only entertaining, but it's also nourishing for the mind and the soul. Introducing Jólabokaflod traditions can be a pathway to making reading a central source of relaxation and enjoyment during the holidays and beyond. So how do you incorporate Jólabokaflod into the way that you celebrate the festive season? You might be wondering how to build a reading tradition into your Christmas or your Hanukkah or just a secular way in which you celebrate things at the end of the year. The beauty of Jolabokaflod is its flexibility. So here are some suggestions. You could do a book swap before you do your gift opening. So you could have everybody in the family contributing a book, putting them in a basket, and then letting each person pick one at random. You could create it at home a kind of cozy reading nook where you dedicate a corner of your living room to reading. You can have cushions and blankets and a warm lamp to create an inviting atmosphere, to recreate that kind of hygge feeling of coziness and feeling as though you belong and you're in a happy place. And you could also set up a tradition of reading after you've eaten. So you've had the Christmas meal, and instead of rushing to do the dishes and to, you know, disperse into different rooms or doing different activities, why not gather for a short reading? This could be somebody sharing a chapter by reading aloud from a favorite holiday story or poetry, or it can just be simply that you all in the same room or in some shared space, choose a book that you've received as a Christmas present to follow the Jolabokaflod idea of reading your new book that you just received as a Christmas present. So just with a bit of creativity, you can seamlessly weave reading into your Christmas traditions, making the holidays more meaningful, restful, and meaningful. So before we wrap up, um, just like to uh, open the floor to questions. And while you're waiting to or thinking about the questions that you might want to ask, um, here's a summary of how to embrace Jolabokaflod into the way that you celebrate Christmas. So choose a book that's meaningful for a loved one, because that's a way of sharing yourself. You can write a note inside the book with a heartfelt message that explains why you've made that choice. And that makes a connection between you, the person, and the book that will last for as long as that person owns the book. And then, as we've said during this presentation, you can start a tradition by, instigating, um, part of the way you celebrate Christmas as gifting books on Christmas Eve or maybe Christmas Day. And then after you've received your books, then have time when you read the books together. And then over the Christmas period, you can follow up with your family and friends, and you can ask them the question. You can say, "How are you getting on with your new book?" And then that's a way of actually mentoring the people to see, to make sure that they're enjoying the book that you gave them for Christmas. And it's a way of cementing that memory and cementing that bond between you and the person that you've gifted the book to. So perhaps you're wondering how to adapt Jolabokaflod for younger children. Maybe you're curious about how to look for recommended book lists in particular genres. Please feel free to ask by um, looking into, maybe putting a comment in the underneath this video on the platform that I'm sharing the video with. So it could be LinkedIn, it could be Facebook, it could be YouTube, it could be another platform. So in closing, we've journeyed from the origins of Jólabókaflód in Iceland, explored why books make incredible gifts, discussed how to choose meaningful titles, highlighted the mental benefits of reading, and imagined easy ways to incorporate these traditions into your own holiday celebrations. Let's revisit the image from the start. That Icelandic family, their holiday lit by both the glow and the fire and the spark of imagination. As you plan for this Christmas, this holiday season, consider giving a book, maybe just one or maybe more, to a loved one, a friend, or even yourself. By doing so, you start to craft a new tradition that embraces stories, fosters bonding, and strengthens the holiday spirit. After you've watched this video, I encourage you to pick one book out that one book you'd love to give. So like a recommendation that you'd like to share with somebody. And then write a heartfelt note, as I say, um, about why you chose it. And then on Christmas Eve, present it to the person you're gifting it to, and carve out some quiet time to read together. This small step can start your own personal Jolabokaflod tradition, igniting a lifelong love of reading and bringing a richer, more meaningful holiday experience into your home. So without further ado, if you have questions, as I say, write them in the comments and um, and I will respond to them by replying to your comments in the on the platform. So thank you very much for joining me, and may your holidays this year and in other years to come um, be joyous and bright, as well as the books that you choose to read. Thank you.